There's a lot of other news to get to. A major headline developing this evening in France. Two men storming a Catholic church, forcing an elderly priest to kneel at the altar and then brutally murdering him. Police rushing to the scene, killing two attackers. One of them had tried to go to Syria to join ISIS, according to authorities. A third man later arrested. Tonight, ISIS is now claiming responsibility, and ABC's Alex Marquardt is right there on the scene for us.
The two attackers burst into the 16th century Normandy church just as morning mass was ending. They forced the priest to his knees and, according to a nun, recorded a kind of sermon in Arabic. They stabbed the throat of 86-year-old Father Jacques Hamel in front of two parishioners and three nuns, one of whom escaped. Elite police set up a perimeter, and as the attackers came out, they were shot dead. A short time later, ISIS claimed the killers as their followers. One of them was 19, arrested twice for trying to go to Syria. He was under house arrest with a tracking bracelet. This is the fourth ISIS-inspired attack in Europe in just 2 weeks, following the Bastille Day tragedy in Nice that left 84 dead, and two others in Germany, a stabbing rampage and a suicide bombing. The Vatican said today that Pope Francis is horrified by this barbaric attack on a Catholic church.
The murder of a priest in Saint-Étienne-de-Rouvray is the first time in France a church has been attacked by people with links to Islamic extremism, but the Catholic community was targeted a little over a year ago. In April 2015, a 24-year-old Algerian student, Sid Ahmed Glum, was arrested in Paris. Authorities suspected he'd murdered a fitness instructor and was planning an attack on a church just south of the French capital. Security was strengthened around a number of Catholic church buildings. Those measures were reinforced over the Christmas period. In Belgium, in April this year, police arrested a man suspected of involvement in the terror attack that hit the Bataclan concert hall in Paris. He reportedly told investigators he wanted to target the business district in the French capital, as well as a conservative Catholic association, most probably in France.
It was a very clearly chosen symbolic target. Just one other article as well, Catherine, on this. Daesh wants to destroy the space of coexistence between Muslims and non-Muslims. This was an article published a few months ago by Slate, but they shared it again this afternoon on their Twitter page. The extinction of the grey zone between Muslims and non-Muslims. Now, this is a propaganda magazine of the Islamic State organisation, so it is a very clear part of their strategy and it is one of the reasons these attacks are taking place. It is to pit different parts of European societies against each other and destroy that space of coexistence.
French President François Hollande says that France is at war.
We are faced with a group, Daesh, that has declared war against us. We must wage this war by any means possible, while respecting the rule of law.
In Germany, the governor of Bavaria, hard hit by recent attacks, called for courage in the face of a new level of terrorism.
What we have here is an entirely new dimension of terrorism, Islamist-minded terrorism. And we have to intensively discuss this challenge in Bavaria and in Germany and prevent as well as repress. This is the big challenge we face.
Merkel must weg, or Merkel must go. It's a phrase that's gaining traction across Germany. A spate of attacks across the south of the country has seen the phrase appearing on keychains, bumper stickers, T-shirts and posters.
Following the attack here in Ansbach, people are telling me that they're upset with the policy and the policy makers that have allowed so many people into the country unchecked.
In my opinion, they should all be sent home. I don't want to sound racist, but only those people with families should be allowed to stay. Single men should go home and defend their countries.
Merkel should resign. This is the easiest solution to the problem, in my opinion.
She let in so many people without papers, controls or checks. It's very difficult now with all these people already here. It's too late to search for needles in a haystack, but I do think we need stricter border controls.
A ban enacted last year by President Obama barring police departments from obtaining military equipment will get a second look by the White House. If the ban is lifted, equipment like heavy-duty body armor and tank-like armored vehicles could once again be transferred from the armed forces to local police departments. In light of recent attacks on uniformed officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge, should we be outfitting police with military-grade equipment for their protection, or would that fan the flame of fear?
Don't be alarmed by sirens and emergency response teams at IU Southeast. It's only a drill. Several police agencies and fire and rescue teams are on campus today doing an active shooter exercise. Officials say the training is crucial to campus safety.
It's incredibly important. We've seen in the news recently how things can come about, but really more importantly, the idea of interacting and training with local law enforcement, local fire departments, and emergency medical services, because these things can unfortunately do happen.
Officials don't want anyone to try to intervene or help during training. It's scheduled to last until 4:30 this afternoon.
And we start the hour with news from Somalia, where at least 7 people have been killed in explosions in the capital, Mogadishu. The first blast took place near the entrance of an African Union base near the airport. The second was at a checkpoint manned by government forces. Police say 2 suicide bombers are to blame for the attacks. The militant group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for that attack. It appears to have been coordinated.
There were 2 blasts. One was foiled and the other one occurred near the airport. A total of 13 people died and 5 others are injured. No more casualties caused by today's attack.
Bangladeshi police have killed 9 suspected militants during a gun battle in the capital, Dhaka. Authorities say the 2-hour-long gunfight occurred during a raid on a building in which the suspects were hiding. Security forces also arrested a man and the location is being inspected by explosive experts. Police said the slain suspects belonged to a terrorist group who were responsible for a deadly attack on a cafe earlier this month. Daesh had claimed responsibility for the July 1st assault, which left 20 people, mostly foreigners, dead. However, the Bangladeshi government rejected the claim, blaming the attack on a local militant group.
It's been a long wait for these Nigerian refugees, and still going back home's not an option. They fled violence caused by Boko Haram. Some have been here as long as 7 years. Troops from Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, Chad and Benin are battling Boko Haram. They're in the final stretch but have been confronting huge challenges.
We mustn't think in terms of leadership, but rather in terms of cooperation and mutual action. That is how I see it. There is no hierarchy. These are all different countries and each one has its own strategy.
So each army has a different approach to tackling the insurgents. They're also stretched thin, needing to secure their own borders too. Boko Haram has killed over 10,000 people since its insurgency began. With those numbers, it's the deadliest group in the world.
China is now banning internet news reporting amid media crackdowns. The story comes to us courtesy of Bloomberg News, who reports that China's top internet regulator ordered major online companies, including Sina Corp and Tencent Holdings Limited, to stop original news reporting. That is according to the latest effort by the government to tighten its grip over the country's web and information industries. They state that the Cyberspace Administration of China imposed the ban on several major news portals, including Sohu.com and NetEase Incorporated. Chinese media reported in identically worded articles citing an unidentified official from the agency's Beijing office. Yes, central authority, censoring information and limiting speech.
On our computers and elsewhere, who isn't fed up with all those security passwords and PIN numbers we're forced to remember and constantly change? Well, newer technology that uses fingerprints and scans of our eyes offers an easier way to keep your information secure and is becoming more widely used. But as Olivia Stearns reports, wouldn't you know it, the criminals are catching on to that as well.
Inside the airport, the gym, and every time you unlock your phone with your finger, there's new technology at work to verify your identity. Soon, your fingerprints, voice, and eyes will be the key to everything from your doctor's office to the ATM.
Get ready to say goodbye to your debit card and password. Soon you could be able to access your account with just a fingerprint or a scan of your eye. But beware, hackers are catching on too.
I didn't have just one fingerprint stolen, I had all 10.
Rebecca Balibaco is a privacy expert and, ironically, one of nearly 22 million people whose fingerprints were stolen in the Federal Office of Personnel Management's massive data breach in 2014.
I also don't know what they're going to do with information about my children or about my husband or about his family.
Security experts say it's a problem that's only getting worse.
You can always get a new credit card. You can always create a new password. Really hard to get new fingers. Right? You only have 10 of them. And once that information leaks, it's out and there's nothing you can do.
A routine decision parents make, choosing clothing for their kids.
Can you get dressed?
But for Haley Woods and a growing number of parents across the country, they see clothes as an opportunity to help shape their kids. Woods tries to buy gender-neutral clothes, a term that has been gaining popularity.
We really need gender-neutral clothing to start at this age because we're building up on how to start dismantling, sexism and misogyny and all that stuff. And it really does start from this tiny building block.
But creating a unisex wardrobe is challenging. While some big retailers are gradually including more gender-neutral stock or inverting conventions, the options are still limited. Which is why some frustrated parents have started their own small online companies.
Not all, but the newer generation of parents thinks that children shouldn't be limited by their gender.
Courtney Hartman founded Jessie and Jack for babies and toddlers and Free to Be Kids for older children, offering clothes that defy gender norms. Hartman began making t-shirts from her home after seeing the same thing over and over again.
The slogan tees in the boys section of big retailers, you see a lot of words like troublemaker, mommy's little monster, tough like daddy.
It used to be that at least for up through the age of 5 or 6, children were dressed alike.
Clothes that reflected gender stereotypes took hold in the late 1980s, when manufacturers and marketers wanted to boost sales to couples having fewer kids, those parents rebelling against the unisex fashions of their youth.
The market doesn't stay the same all the time. It's not the same parents having babies for 110 years.
Now, the next generation of parents are balking at the so-called pink washing.
I definitely wish I had more options.
Parents looking for more choices to chase away the clothing blues.
A state of emergency declared in Peru where bitter cold has killed tens of thousands of alpacas. The animals are dying of starvation at high altitudes in the southern Andes where herders depend on their fleece to make a living. Snow and ice continue to cover grass alpacas need to live. The AP says temps in the area have plunged to -9 degrees Fahrenheit. If that continues, an estimated 300,000 more alpacas could be at risk of dying. Such a die-off could be catastrophic for local families who make their living from the animals. The only other big animals at 15,000 feet are sheep, and they're being hit hard too. Peru produces 80% of the world's alpaca fleece.
Heartbreaking images coming out of India where monsoon rains have triggered massive flooding. It's happening in the tea and oil-rich state of Assam. Now, the deluge is affecting about 1.2 million people, and at least 7 people have died. Now, more than 200 villages and 247,000 acres of farmland are underwater. Floodwaters have washed away roads and other infrastructure, leaving many victims marooned or seeking refuge on rooftops. Now, the Kaziranga National Park, home to 2/3 of the world's endangered one-horned rhinoceroses, is submerged. Officials say the rare rhinos are now vulnerable to poaching. India has activated the Army and its National Disaster Response Force to help flood victims and distribute aid.
Is on alert in Tajikistan. Yes, according to the TASS news agency, they're reporting that the servicemen of the 201st Military Base deployed in Tajikistan have been woken up on alert. That's according to the press service of the Central Military District, who made the statement on Friday. 2 garrisons located in the cities of Dushanbe and Kurgan-Toib will hold classes of combat readiness. Quote, the units have been put on high alert. The personnel is drilling maneuvers aimed at fulfilling surprise tasks such as repelling an attack of a conditional enemy at vital facilities. That is according to the press service. Now, they state the 201st Military Base is the biggest military facility in Russia located outside of its borders. It is located in the three cities of Dushanbe, Kolyab, and Kurgan-Toib. They state here that under an agreement signed in October 2012, the units will stay in Tajikistan until 2042. Artillery units of the Integrated Combat Forces of Russia's Eastern District were then alerted on Wednesday to march for drills on the Tuskegol range. Excuse me. So, Russian military placed on alert there for some pretty serious maneuvers.